Welcome to the Subconscious Elements Podcast, a podcast where we cover all things spirituality. And today we'll be going over a bunch of different terms that we consistently use. We had several requests from some fans asking us to kind of go over some esoteric terms. You know, a lot of times we say things and me and her know the definition of them, and you might not quite know exactly what we're talking about. So we're going to go ahead and dive into a bunch of different vocabulary for the spiritual world and kind of give you our takes on them and the definitions. That way you can better keep up with us throughout the episodes. So hopefully this is an informative episode for you guys, and I'll kick it off to my co-host, Tori Sedliff.
So I'd like to start out with some foundational concepts, and the first term that I'd like to define is the term consciousness, and this is the awareness that you bring to every moment. And in a visual metaphor, we can see this as the tip of the iceberg, whereas the subconscious can be seen as the full iceberg underneath the surface, something that we're less aware of. Consciousness is the awareness.
Yeah. And so one thing that you can do to kind of understand this deeper is to, you can meditate on it, but really just try to pay attention to your thoughts and your awareness of the thoughts themselves. So consciousness, awareness are very similar terms, but one thing I try to live by, and I try to tell those that are interested, is that you are not the voice in your head. And a lot of times, just with the way that reality is and the way that we go through life, we can sometimes believe that we are the voice in our head. But believe it or not, you aren't. You're the awareness behind the voice. You could even say that they're voices. And what I mean by that is you don't have to act on the thoughts that are in your head. You don't have to think or identify with the thoughts in your head. And if you aren't the thoughts in your head or the voices in your head, then what are you? And if you try to pay attention to that and just dwell on it for a little bit, you can see that you're something deeper. Now, where that comes from is up to debate. Where is the seat of our consciousness? A lot of times we imagine it to be like not our brain, not our eyes, but maybe somewhere in the center of that, like in between the heart, eyes, and brain. But again, that's where you can kind of identify what consciousness is, right? It's something deeper than just the voices in your head. It's something greater than that. And when you do that, you allow yourself to create separation between reactions, actions, self-talk, because no one wants to have what they call like word vomit, where everything that goes through your mind just comes right out of your mouth. Like that's not a healthy thing or a good thing. So creating that separation will do wonders for you as far as being able to take actions and not be in a constant state of reaction.
Yeah, so one step that we can take on the spiritual path is to become aware of the subconscious, which is our programming since childhood it basically plays in the background of our awareness, and it expedites reactions, responses to easen up the load of the consciousness and to make our life more efficient. And so by becoming aware of these automatic reactions and responses, you can reprogram the words and consciousness and reactions that you have in your external environment by becoming aware of the internal environment and understanding where and why you've gained these programmings or patterns. And it's basically like diving into the depths of the mind without just being pushed by responses. So before responding, you think to yourself, okay, this is what I'd usually do. Is this the best way to respond? Is there a better way to respond? And just taking that pause, taking that moment to decide and to choose, be a conscious chooser for your life. Yeah, like what you said with the observer, this is the main seat, and we can also see this kind of tied into the term ego. And whenever people hear the word ego, it's tied to a negative, typically like seen as the enemy. And ego is not there to be the enemy. It's there to program. It's there to be a figure in which you can guide your life around. Because if you don't have any type of anchor in your life, then you're just kind of floating into the abyss. So it kind of anchors you in a sense that you have an identity. And whether it's good or bad, this is something that we can change consciously.
What word is that?
Ego.
Ego.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the ego never truly goes away. It always exists. And even in shattering it, ego can develop around the idea that you shattered your ego. And as Tori said, it can be very useful, but just a lot of times it can, just like with anything, it can be a crutch or something that takes away from your experience, or just from your experience. And like you're saying, I have a buddy who did psychedelics at a very young age, and he was, as you might know, like psychedelics can be very ego shattering. And because of this, he kind of goes through life without attachments, like just is always like, oh, this doesn't matter. And then it can be kind of lonely, and just like you're saying, going into the abyss without one. It feels like because you're not attaching on to things, you can just feel like almost like a loner, or you have a hard time like taking things seriously or having passion. And, for me, when I first got out of high school, I went right to the Marine Corps, and having that sense of identity helped me out a lot. Like, no matter what I was going through, it's like, at least I was a Marine. At least I am a Marine. So it's like, it helps me push through, helps me identify with something so that I can get through tough times. Or if I don't have anything, at least I have that sort of thing. And so, it can hurt you, but it can also help you. And so it's like your relationship to your ego, right? So like that saying that goes, you're either a humble person or someone about to be humbled, right? So you never want to get to where you think that you're better than people. Like that's the ego taking advantage of like titles that you might have accumulated, or accomplishments, or your identity, pretty much taking advantage of your identity and trying to hold it over others. So you just want to be careful of that.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of distortions that people can have with their ego, where it can become so craving of control.
Go lay down.
Yeah, there's distortions that people can have with their egos, which the ego naturally wants to continue to have control over the situation. And if you allow it to run rampant and have the control that it can distort. And we can see this in characters that play out, that they're always trying to one up or be superior in every situation, when they could just relax that side of them and try to foster a connection and humility and truth in the situation. It kind of like shadows in this way that isn't a figment of their true self.
And it becomes more treacherous the higher consciousness you become, the more accomplished you become, the higher in status you become, the more that you go through life and the more powerful you become, the more treacherous the ego becomes. So, I mean, there's many, many stories of like spiritual leaders who were taken over by ego and used their power to do evil things or just create a toxic environment. Like the second someone starts to believe that they're special or that they have some type of divine gift or, you know, like access to God or spiritual abilities or spiritual insights, they can use that. A lot of times you'll notice that like a lot of these cults, it almost always turns into where the head guy's sleeping with all the women. Like it can very easily go down that path. So that's why it's like very important to be aware of your ego and try your best to always like keep it in check and essentially do what they call, you know, the inner work, the shadow work. Because a lot of times you do this and you get to a certain level and then you just stop doing it and then you believe that you've gotten there, right? That you're there. But just with anything, it's like once you become an expert or a master, that should only be the point that you realize you know nothing or that the journey is barely beginning, right? So if you're a master meditator, you know, and you're giving courses or classes to people about meditation, you know, it's like there is a master out there that you could go to that would tell you that you know nothing. So, and it's the same with literally everything. We say this a lot in jiu-jitsu. It's like once you're a black belt, that's the beginning. And there are black belts above me that make me feel like I don't know anything, or it's like I might as well just be a white belt compared to them. When I roll with them, they smush me into the ground. And so, but you see it again as like there are some black belts who get to black belt and they just quit training hard and all they do is they teach, and then they become, as time goes on, what they're teaching becomes outdated and they're no longer connected with where the sport's at or the teaching. And, you know, like then their students aren't able to be competitive or utilize the knowledge that they're being taught. And it also hurts the students if you're not actively able to put in the knowledge that you're learning, then it's like not really jiu-jitsu anymore. And so that can happen with any skill set.
Yeah, keeping with the theme of inner work and transformation, another word that comes to me is the integration. And so the point of the ego is not to dissolve it. The point of the ego is to learn to understand it, see it as separate, and then integrate it into your life. And this can be done with what we call shadow work, which is the constant revisiting of old patterns and reprogramming them into more useful patterns. And like you said, it's a process that never ends. And once you think you're done, that's the point where the ego is taken over. So you constantly have to revisit, recheck, and realign yourself with the goals that you want and keep that at the highest priority. So yeah, just integrating these shadows or these less lovable aspects of your personality can allow you to transform into a higher level of awareness and consciousness.
Amen, sister.
We can move into like energies and frequencies. So energies and frequencies, the first term that came to me was vibration. And when we say vibration, we're not talking about the literal vibration in a sense that you can see. It's like an undertone that carries life and presence, and it's something that's felt rather than seen. And Once you reach a certain level of presence and awareness, you can start to sense things in your environment that you weren't aware of before. And becoming aware of other people's energies can save you a lot of time and allow you to read the situation and allow you to respond in better ways. It's kind of like learning the opponent before interaction. And so if you step into an environment and you automatically feel some sense to leave, then that's something that you should listen to. And so we can become aware of what feels good and what doesn't.
Yeah, just a very basic example of this is, we've all met people where something about them just feels off. Like they might be saying all the right things, but to you just don't vibe well with them, or they're not giving you good vibes, so you steer clear of them. Well, some of us do. Some people, they're not able to pick up on those cues, but most of us were able to sense when someone isn't being genuine, and there is a vibe that someone gives off when they are being genuine. And so one of the most common ways that you can sort of feel this is like when someone compliments you. Like you can tell when someone just compliments you to be complimenting you because they want your favor, or it's like a script that they run in their head. I'm sure we've all maybe met someone or know someone that essentially whenever they meet someone, they know to give that person a compliment. And it's just a script that they run in their head. Like, oh, make sure I compliment something that they're wearing. And when you do that, it loses that vibration of, genuineness. I don't know if that's a word, or genuinality. But the feeling of being genuine isn't there when you give a compliment just because you read a book on how to win friends and influence people, and it goes, it's like, oh, make sure you compliment said person, and then you're like, oh, better compliment them so that they like me or favor me. Like then that's where the term like kiss ass comes off of, or brown noser. It's like you're essentially just saying something so that you can win favor, and most of the time you can sense it. And then again, when someone genuinely likes something that you have or that you're doing and compliments you, you can tell that they mean it because maybe you've been putting effort into that, and that idea of it takes one to know one. So, you know when there's a real sense of, how do I say it? Like connection. Good job, Tori. A real sense of connection when they're, they like, I think it was the Avatar movie, but they like, I see you, mm-hmm. Right? It's just like when someone lets you know that they see your expression, and in order to do that, they have to have that same deep level of introspection that you do, right? So a lot of times when you go on this path, people will criticize you or see you as different or judge you for it. Like when you cut your hair, right? And so many people judged you for it. When I grew out my hair, when she cut her hair, people judged her. When I grew out my hair, people judged me. It's pretty funny, but only people that have been through that and understand what it takes to commit to that and what you might be going through can actually understand the experience and then be able to connect with you on that level. So it's just like, I'll just relate it to jiu-jitsu, but when someone like compliments me on a technique, I can tell it's genuine because they know how much work I had to put into that technique in order to pull it off. Or when someone compliments me on competing, like they usually understand like how much it takes out of you to do it. So, the compliment, it's funny, most of us struggle with being able to take a compliment. Like even that's a whole skill in itself. Like it's like we always want to be appreciated, but then when someone starts to appreciate you, you get awkward and weird. And you're like, oh yeah, cool, change the subject. But anyways, just being able to recognize that and then appreciate that person for taking the time to connect with you, means a lot. And so again, that's just back to the original point of, what is a vibration or vibes, like that whole term, like good vibes, like that's a real thing. And I'm sure if you think about it, you can remember some times where someone definitely gave you good vibes. Like sometimes you meet someone, you're like, man, I want to be that person's friend. Like you just like them. Like something about them is like, that's a good person, or that's a genuine person, or that's a real person. Like real recognizes real, that whole thing. But, and then sometimes you meet people and you're just like, yeah, I don't want anything to do with this person. They could be like the coolest person in the room and everyone's like head over heels for them, but you're just like, yeah, they're just not my speed. They're not my type of person, whatever it is. But you can pretty much sum that up as like a vibration.
Yeah, and they might not even have to say anything to you. It's just something that you feel. Because every thought, every emotion, and every intention that you bring into a situation carries its own frequency. And once you can attune to these frequencies, you can understand the deeper meanings behind what people are saying or how they're interacting with each other. Another term that we can see when talking about energy and frequency is aura. And basically this is an invisible field that surrounds us. And it reflects our state of being. And this is true whenever you see a person and maybe they're going through a tough time and they're just not outwardly taking care of themselves in the ways that they normally do. This is a physical representation of what could be going on internally. And so whenever you go to work and you see your coworker and you're like, oh, what's going on? Are you sick? Or it's almost always they're going through something that maybe they don't want to talk about. And so, yeah, being aware of people's auras and maybe being more compassionate in a situation where they're not showing up as the best version of themselves, and maybe offering them at least the compassion, but any type of assistance.
Yep. Yeah, just goes to the idea that your thoughts and inner dialogue and your mindset, your attitude, like affect almost like your immediate surroundings. And this kind of goes into the vibes that you put off, right? So like the vibes that you can put off kind of come from your aura as well. And, to me, it's a reminder to, be mindful of the self-talk, Sometimes we can get overwhelmed with drama or situations that are going on, behind closed doors or at your home, wherever, and then you can bring that energy out somewhere else. And, some people will say that aura is carried with you always and forever type of thing, right? Like you're always constantly putting off an aura and people can sense it. They can, whether subtly or not. And, over time, it affects you deeper to where it can almost be like this feedback loop where you're, in a sense, you could understand that, someone who is always gossiping and putting out drama, even when they're not doing that, they become addicted to the feeling of being in it or starting it or spreading it. So then when they aren't doing it, they have like this craving that needs to be filled so that they find drama, if that makes sense. So it can kind of become like this feedback loop. And so you just kind of want to always be very careful of, your self-talk and the thoughts that you're going through and with day to day, and try to, it's like, obviously it's very difficult to be positive or think positive thoughts, especially when you're going through it, but you can definitely avoid or at least realize when you're going down like what I call like a rabbit hole of just like, arguing with yourself or, doing those imaginary arguments with someone else, or anxiety, like making yourself super anxious about, am I going to get this job or this promotion, or what is she going to say about this? and then just like feeding into it of just like imagining all these different possibilities. It's like that, going back to that Stoic principle of, only try not to worry about things that you can't control, and just try not to feed into it, because it's very easy to do, especially when you're doing something very monotonous where you're like driving a lot or waiting for something to happen, where you're just like, you don't have a lot going on and you're waiting for this next event. That can be like the times where you're most likely where you can be caught up in feeding into those things, which can negatively affect your aura.
Yeah, and that's almost seen as like the autopilot mode of the subconscious. And becoming aware of it is the first step, and then trying to understand it and then change the way that you speak to yourself. And auras are definitely contagious in a sense. Like if you step into a room and you start talking to someone and they have like super Eeyore energy and they're just like, oh, this happened to me and my life's this way and it'll always be this way and there's nothing I can do about it. And then that almost in a sense like takes your energy to meet them. So it's a natural thing that we do to be able to assist the other person. But if we allow it to bring us down without being aware that we're being brought down by it, then we can ourselves become caught in the same pattern. But if we're aware of, oh, let me be compassionate, let me try to help raise their energy, and you can kind of assist them in raising their vibration, then that's a whole different way of approaching it.
Agreed.
And another word we can go into is chakra. And chakras are basically the energy centers that are within our bodies. And let's see. Yeah, so it says that when the energy centers in the body are aligned, we feel great. And whenever there's an energy center in our body that's blocked, we can start to feel low. And so the best thing that we can do is have a well-rounded lifestyle where we're physically, mentally, and emotionally challenging ourselves to rise. And whenever we're lacking in one area of our life, the energetic system of the entire body is affected. And so we can do movement practices, whether it's just walking, yoga, anything that gets you moving. And then, of course, the mental aspects that we can train ourselves by just reading, trying to learn new concepts, allowing new information to freshen our minds and our outlooks on life. And then emotionally, like we said, are we allowing ourselves to fall into these patterns, or are we consciously choosing to recreate better patterns for ourselves? And then there's a whole mystical aspect of chakras where people know exactly how to lighten up each energy center of the body. And I'm not specifically trained in these ways, but I'm definitely interested in those. And I know a lot of people hear the word chakras and they're like, oh, it's a bunch of woo-woo. But there could be some truth behind it, whether or not you believe it or not. So
yeah, it is very interesting. It's like there are light workers out there, like energy healers, and they can, I forget there's a name for one of them. Not Qigong, but I'll ask ChatGPT here in a second, but or you ask while I get this thought out. It's like energy healers. There's a specific one that you hear about a lot, but yeah, I kind of get suspect when I see people like, doing this and, they're like doing some type of thing and then the person's like lying down and they're like, oh, like making these weird noises. I don't know. I mean, I've never even had someone try it on me, so who am I to judge? But I will say that there's definitely multiple brains in the body, such as the gut, the heart, your nervous system, all are like mini brains, and they all work together with your brain. So a lot of times we think that the brain tells the body what to do, but actually the different, I don't want to say intellectuals, but intellects of the body and the brain all work together to give you an experience, awareness, and consciousness. Do you know what it is?
I get like Shakti, Prana.
Let me see. But yeah, so the body has multiple brains, and these all work together to give you an experience and a consciousness. So in my mind, it's just like anything, you know, if your gut's wrecked, it affects your whole body. If your nervous system is wrecked, it affects your whole body. If your heart is wrecked. So it's like, and you could definitely say that these things affect us in different ways, and maybe different thought patterns affect them. So I will say this, man, I felt like, I swear I met this yoga dude one time, and he was able to figure out like what you might be dealing with emotionally based on your injuries, which I thought was pretty trippy. And he did me and my coach at the time, and I swear he was spot on. But, you know, it always goes back to that idea of like, you know, were they vague? You know, maybe we're all going through things, and like if maybe they're very typical, and we all go through these things at different times, and so maybe he just so happened to name things that we were going through. So, you know, it's not a complete like
foolproof.
Yeah, you know, it wasn't completely foolproof, but I was at the time. I was like, dang, I was like going through a rib injury, and he was saying I was having a hard time opening up my heart to someone, and I was like, and then he did my coach as well, and I felt like that was spot on. And there's a book as well. It's leaving me. It's in my Audible that I've listened to. I got about halfway through. It's just super dense, but it just talks about how, the health of our body can be affected by our emotions, especially when we don't deal with them. And it definitely makes a lot of sense. I mean, you can have like crazy knots in your shoulders and not ever lift anything, you know, like you can definitely store stress in your back and shoulders or different areas. So in a sense, it does make sense. You know, again, it's just obviously, you know, there's not like any hard data behind it. And, you know, when we start talking about emotions, it can be very vague. So, you know, it's really hard to be 100% sure about this type of stuff, but because it's like, you know, how then do you decipher between if an injury is actually like a physical injury or something that you're dealing with emotionally? You know, it's like hard to tell between the two, because you could say that, you know, if you have a whole other thing that you have to deal with that could be causing you injuries like that, you know, it's going to be very hard to pinpoint an actual causality, like an actual reason for it. So, it's mind-blowing stuff, but there's definitely a lot of information out there about it.
Is the book called The Medicine Bag?
No, that's a good one too. But no, this is a very dense book. I don't think I have it on this iPad, but maybe. Let me see here.
Is that one that goes through a bunch of stories, right?
No.
No?
Yeah, I'm not logged in on this one. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm not logged in on this one, but it's just a book about tying or like different emotions are tied to different parts of our body. And it does seem convincing, but it was so dense I just could not get through it. But it'll make you think.
Yeah, so as we've seen, the body, the energetic systems of the body can be connected to the mind and the emotion. And also in life, we have this connection to all and this unity type consciousness. And so I was going to bring up the term collective consciousness.
Reiki.
Oh, Reiki, yeah.
Yeah, like Reiki healers. And I'm just like, I mean, I don't know, but where they can realign your energies. Well, I mean, okay, so, but at the same time, there's this idea that you can, you know, give intentions into something and then give it to somebody and those intentions affect them. Like you can heal people by giving them something that you put good energy into. And that would also seem very preposterous, like along the same lines of Reiki healing, but I've definitely experienced it firsthand. And so there's dang telepathy tapes out there that like supposedly humans are freaking telepaths, like, and that there's aliens. So I mean, anything can be true at this point. But
there's like the nonverbal people that are able to tap into other people's thoughts. That's pretty crazy.
Yep.
And then there's the people that can do the what is it, astral projection?
Right, yep.
Yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, so in the same theme of the connection and the unity between the centers of the body, we can see this within expanding into humans with humans, into the collective consciousness. And in my mind, this seems like a web that ties everyone together, and it's, you can visualize it almost as like how the bees interact with the hive and like hive mind mentality. But it's this thought that we're all going through the same things. We're just at different points in the same journey. And it might have like a slightly different spin, whether we choose certain outlets to express ourselves, but essentially that we're all the same and that we all come from the same consciousness, and we're just experiencing lives through our own personal perspectives. And that was kind of the theme of that Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse, where he could see that all of the lifetimes inevitably had the same type of trigger points, or what do they call it, like trigger? Canon
events.
Yeah, canon events. And that brings me into the word soul contract, where it's this idea like that before we are born into this reality, we sign up for specific things to happen. And for us to learn specific ideas or to overcome things that we've missed in past realities. So it's a way for us to evolve personally. And whether you believe it or not, I kind of want to believe it because I feel like it's super interesting, and it allows us to be at peace with our own minds that nothing is random and that we chose to be here. And if we chose to be here, then we're able to overcome whatever is thrown at us in this lifetime. So.
Yeah, this becomes apparent if you do any like groups where you can share. I do a men's group, and that's one of the ongoing things that I'll always notice is like, yeah, we're all like the same person, just like you said, in different parts of a cycle. It's like all the same cycle, but expressed differently, and we're all at different points. Like I think it was like the first or second men's group I went to, maybe, I can't remember. But yeah, when everyone was sharing, it was just like this crazy feeling of like, oh, I've been that guy before. I've been where that guy's been. I've been at a point in my life where I was where he's at, and then I could see myself being where this guy's gonna be at, and this guy, and it's like, and then me and this guy are going through similar things, and it's like, yeah, they're different, but you can see like from like a
third person.
Yeah, from a distance perspective of like how they're very similar. And so, and then the idea of like canon just means that it happens, it's like a key point that happens across all realities, right? And so it's like always a joke that you see it a lot as a joke, like, oh, that's canon. That means like it happens to all of us. Like it's not specific to one person or one reality. Like it's something that we all go through, like a breakup. That's canon. Like we all go through breakups, And in the Spider-Man story, something canon is the loss of someone close, whether it's Uncle Ben or Aunt May. It's like you take a huge loss that you could have prevented possibly, and then it helps turn you into Spider-Man. But yeah, and then that idea is also tied with, that a religious idea that God never gives you anything that you can't handle, like never gives you too much, right? It's that same thing of like, if you signed up for it, you wouldn't have signed up for it if you didn't think you could handle it. It's like you signed up for it because you knew that you needed it to achieve something or gain some type of quality that you want, right? It's like if you want strength, then you get a hard life. If you want patience, then you get scenarios where you can't wait but have to. Like, in order to get these traits, you have to go through something very difficult that teaches you these things. So it does help when you look at life this way. And it can be scary because you see like crazy shit that happens to other people and you're like, man, I hope I didn't sign up for that, but which is another thing that I get a lot in the men's group is I'm always just grateful for my own problems. Like no matter what you're going through and no matter how tough it may seem, I promise you, if you listen to other people tell you what they got going on, you'll be like, you know what, I'm okay where I'm at. Like I'm gonna keep dealing with what I got because, man, it's like when you start to really learn about people, you realize that life is tough for all of us. And man, I could even go on a whole thing about like that's why we shouldn't judge people and why you should never put yourself on a moral high ground, because it really is that story of like if you put yourself in someone else's shoes, you'd be them.
Yeah, that reminds me of the story of David and Goliath, where David wanted to become a king or a conqueror, and so the Lord sent him Goliath. He didn't send him the crown, he sent him something to overcome.
Amen to that, sister.
And so we can transition to some practices and perspectives that can keep us grounded on our spiritual journey. And that's just mindfulness. And so that's just the simple act of being present. And like we said, taking that pause, taking that moment to realign yourself with the higher version of yourself that you want to be, you aspire to be. And then we have the term meditation, where this is a practice where we can become aware of our thoughts. And it doesn't have to be a strict, rigid, or even structured practice that we follow. It can just be something as simple as allowing the space in our minds to view the thoughts without judgment. And you can take that to whichever extreme you choose, but it can just be something as simple as a couple minutes every now and then. Just realign with that inner talk and just say, is this what I want to be thinking? Can I change this? How can I change this? Where did it come from? And then the integration practice. And then the concept of surrender. That's something that a lot of people can struggle with, but we say it a lot. It's like, it's not just giving up or letting into whatever is daunting you, but rather just trusting in the process of the universe and allowing things to happen without trying to force outcomes or control.
Yep. Acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wanted to get into, we should probably like cover like what a gene key is, what a shadow frequency, gift frequency, and a city frequency is. Just because that's
we talk
kind of
about
like,
it so much.
Right. So just because we use like the gene keys to kind of like, that's kind of like what started the theme of this podcast, even though we do a lot of movies, but I feel like they're very similar. So a gene key is a contemplative tool connecting genetics, spirituality, guiding personal transformation through the frequencies of shadow, gift, and siddha. And so it's like if I tried to explain the gene keys to you, you'd be like, that sounds crazy. And, it kind of is, but in a simpler idea, it's essentially like patterns, right? And so it's one of the texts it's based off of is like the I Ching, which is like super ancient. But I mean, you might have heard of like monks who can like see your future or like know all about you just from like reading your palm or something like that. Well, it's just that there's this idea that there's basic patterns that life falls into. There could be different numbers, but I think like overall, I think the main number is 64, I believe. Or maybe that's the one. I don't know how many are in the gene keys, but I know in the I Ching, it's 64. So, and there's this idea that if you master these patterns, like if you really have a deep level of understanding of these different patterns and the interconnectedness of them, that you could then really see how people's lives play out. And then use that to help them. And I mean, if you don't believe me, I've never met one, but there's plenty of stories about gurus and monks that heal people or help them by telling them like challenges that they're going through. And, it's like, I get this experience with the men's group. It's like no one is like so different from the other person that you can't possibly imagine their life. Like it's all, again, very similar. It's like, yeah, maybe obviously we all have different paths, hobbies, jobs, lifestyles, but we're still all going through the same problems. So in that sense, you can definitely like understand, right? And then the same thing, like there's also idea of like archetypes. Like I think there's only like 11 to 13 archetypes. And I mean, it's very easy to see how we all fit into these different archetypes, how several, like one or two of them can be our main things, but that we kind of like cycle through all of them throughout our life. And it's like, if you start to put these ideas together, you can understand how someone can understand these patterns and possibly tell you about things that you're going through in a way that might be able to help you get through those things. And then just for our personal experiences, like when we read about the gene keys, it just talks about things that we've either been through or seen other people go through or experiences that we've already had. And it just, to us, it kind of helps us think about it when we have like vocabulary that describes it, when we have a way to think about it, because it gives you, like it says, it's a tool to help you connect. It says genetics and spirituality, but to me it's like experience and spirituality. And it's like when you read these things, you're like, oh, I've been through that, or oh, I've experienced that before. And then it just puts it into a way that you can understand it and contemplate on it. So like contemplate just means to think deeply without coming to a conclusion. So there's like when you contemplate, you just think about it. You don't try to like resolve or come up with any solutions. You just let it sit in your brain. Because sometimes there's not an answer or a solution. Sometimes you just got to ponder about it. And so, listening to it and contemplating about the terminology and the way it just lays these things out has definitely helped us. And so that's what a gene key is. Yeah. It's a giant book right here. We got it. And it's essentially like a modern I Ching, where like the I Ching is ancient and it comes from, although I'm not racist by saying China, but I'm pretty sure it's Chinese. And,
it is.
Yeah. And it's like there are monks that master the I Ching and then they travel the world helping people. And this is like a modern version of that. And I think it incorporates a couple other things like astrology and other things. But yeah, it's again, super helpful to have the terminology and the vocabulary around different experiences that we could all be going through.
Yeah, when you're reading it, you realize, oh, it's not just me. And you realize that whatever you thought that you couldn't overcome or that no one could relate to you with, it's like this is a pattern that all human consciousness goes through and struggles with. So you realize, oh, I shouldn't be afraid of expressing this or feeling this. And the more that you feel into it, the more that you allow it to transform into something greater.
All right, now shadow frequencies. It's we kind of talked about with the shadow, right? What is that what you said earlier? The shadow self, or?
Yeah, I said like shadow work and.
So shadow frequency is a lower energetic expression within the gene keys, or just experience or personality, representing our challenges and limitations. And I think we went over it in the last podcast, but it's just a aspect of yourself that, what did you say earlier?
It's like less desirable.
Less desirable. It's not.
We're like embarrassed about it. We try to hide it. We don't think that anyone else can relate to us. And it's like the dark side that we fail to integrate or fail to express, that we just shove in the closet, basically.
And a lot of times the reason that they are like this, because you can imagine that your consciousness or awareness is like a light, and we just tend to not address it. We just place our conscious awareness somewhere else, whether it's our phone or addictions, et cetera, et cetera. And so these things exist within us, but if we just paid attention to them, we could integrate them. But it's uncomfortable, right? Because it makes you feel embarrassed, or it gives you like that cringe. I'm sure we've all had this moment where you thought about like a random memory comes up and you're just like, ugh, or you gotta make like an audible sound where you're like, whoa, flip to a different memory, But going back to that idea of like surrender and acceptance and understanding that we all have shadow aspects, and that it's okay to have them, and you want to try to understand them and what they're coming from and why you might feel embarrassed about them, or why you're awkward in those situations, and how you can. A lot of times the reason we're like that is because we were in a reactive state, or very identified with ourself in the moment, like with whether it's our brain or the voices in our head, and just again, like bringing light or bringing our awareness to it, so that we can integrate it and act better for the next time, or consciously act in a way that produces a more desirable outcome. And then so that leads us into the gift frequency, which is the transformation of shadows into personal strengths and talents. And so it's just like anything where it's like, if you have a weakness, that can become your strength if you work on it enough. And so you can do that with your shadows. So I'm going to try not to get into a tangent, but this whole idea of, I have social anxiety, or like, that is like so freaking lame. Or like, I'm neurodivergent. My brain works differently. Like, all of our brains work differently. We all have social anxieties, or like, I have anxiety. Every human on planet Earth has anxiety. You either choose to actively work on it and get better at it and find ways to cope and deal with it that are healthy, or you become a person that repeats this idea that, oh, I have anxiety, I have to take medication for it. I mean, maybe there's an experience out there that I just don't have that, some people do, so I just can't understand. But the idea of social anxiety is just silly to me. We all have social anxiety. I have had social anxiety. The difference will be is that I chose no one cares. If you're a male and you do something difficult in your life, you're going to realize that no one gives a shit about your social anxiety, and you better get the F over it. So, you get over it and you work through it and you find ways to be more social. And, I still have a social battery. I can't be social all the time. Like, sometimes when I'm too social, I got to, not message anyone for, 3 days.
Recharge?
Yeah, and recharge and sleep and not leave my room. But this idea that, I need to be medicated because I don't know how to talk to people, that's just preposterous.
It's the victim mindset.
Yeah, the victim mindset. There you go. And so, again, you'll work on it. It's like the same. It's like no guy gets good at talking to girls or just born good talking to girls. I mean, unless they're super handsome, but for the most part, 95% of males aren't good at talking to girls.
It's a skill.
It's a skill. Social communication is a skill. So you got to work on it. You got to get over it. Yeah, it's going to feel uncomfortable. We all feel uncomfortable talking to other humans. It doesn't come natural to most of us. So, it's just like anything. It's the exact same thing as going and getting beat up at jiu-jitsu and then instead of continuing to go to jiu-jitsu to get better, you instead be like, oh, I have eye suck. It means I can't do jiu-jitsu because I have eye suck. It's like, no, you just never did it before, and everyone else is better than you at it. Same thing with social anxiety, or same thing with just anxiety in general. It's like, I've listened to two people argue about who has more anxiety, and neither one of them have ever did anything hard in their lives. It makes my brain hurt to think about it. It's like, there are people who have deployed overseas and been shot at, blown up, and had the worst possible things happen to them, and they're able to function in society. So please tell me how, what could have possibly happened to you that you can't function in society without some type of medication? Come on, dude. Again, I don't want to get into a whole thing about it, but that's the same thing as the shadow. It's sometimes it just consumes people and it becomes a part of their identity. You don't have to. It can actually become your strength.
You can be empowered.
Yes. But you have to work on it, and it's going to suck. It's not going to feel good. It's not easy. I'm just relating it to my own experience, but just for example, talking to girls is not easy, and it's hard, and it's going to feel super uncomfortable because you're going to go to try to talk to a chick, and then she's just going to roll her eyes and walk away. It's and it doesn't feel good to have that happen to you. But you know what? If you ever want to have a girlfriend, you got to learn how to talk to women, and you're going to have to fail a bunch. It's a numbers game. So the same thing with these social anxiety weirdos. It's you got to get out there. You can't just play video games all day. You can't just sit inside your house all day and think that, oh, everyone else was born with some ability to talk to humans except you. No, they get out there and talk to people. All right, I'm going to stop, otherwise I'll keep going.
Yeah, that was in the last gene key that we mentioned, the pipe dream, where you think your dreams will manifest without having to take any forward action. And so you just imagine this great reality, but you're not taking any steps to put it forth into reality.
Right. And so the gift frequency is essentially just transforming the shadow into the personal strength and talent. And again, it's hard. It's not easy. If it was easy, then we'd all have talents. We all could have talents, but yeah, again, it wouldn't be called a gift if it was all inherent, we all just automatically had them. It takes work, it takes time, it takes dedication to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. And
the gift wouldn't mean as much to us.
Right. Yeah, it wouldn't even try for it. I mention this a lot in jiu-jitsu, because not a lot of people sign up, and it's It's not for everyone. If it was, we wouldn't want to do it as much. So now let's go into, because we're running short on time, but let's do the Siddha, whatever you want to call it, the Siddha frequency. And it's the highest divine essence and pure state of enlightenment achievable with each gene key. Yeah, within each gene key. And yeah, it's essentially like, I mean, I don't want to say if we all know somebody, but most of us might know someone that just has like, you know, a next level ability to connect with other humans, connect with themselves. Like a lot of times, like these people are going to be like essentially masters of skills. Like, you know, they're going to be very enlightened individuals. And essentially that's, well, I mean, I guess, you know, it's hard to say what, you know, like gurus have siddhas. Like that's like the level that they're at. And then, I mean, yeah, I guess it's hard to define exactly like what a siddha is versus a gift, because both seem pretty amazing. But it's just a signature of someone who has really done the work to, you know, achieve like this next level gift of, you know, whatever, like they've mastered a pattern. They've truly unlocked like this level of depth within themselves that they can tap into, that it almost comes natural, right? I mean, it's like, I mean, I guess you could, a way that I could put it as like a gift could be like a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, like someone who is midway in their journey and they have a skill that can't be taken away from them, and it's extremely useful. So for example, a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, no one on the street is beating them up. They're gonna wreck everyone. It doesn't matter. Like if you don't train, you are gonna absolutely get mollywopped by a purple belt. But they're not a master yet. They still have a lot of work to do. And then there's the black belt, which is, again, what you could consider a master of jiu-jitsu, to where they can teach it, they can use it to level up others and help them along their journey. Like I can, like for example, I can just watch matches and easily tell what they did wrong, how they can get better, what aspects of their technique I can break down, people's styles, et cetera, et cetera. So I would compare the Siddha to that level, where you're so good at it, you have such a deep experience of it that you can then use it to help others and level up their own gifts.
The art of mastery.
Correctamundo.
It's like the fine-tuning process of self, and then once you're so fine-tuned, the only thing that makes sense is to help others and transform their lives.
Yeah, I was listening to something recently where it was saying that, like, it was just talking about siddhas and that people can get caught up in like trying to chase them, and that to try and get these for the sake of having them is like yeah, it's like you're missing the whole point.
Yeah, it's about the journey, not the end point.
That makes sense. Yep. Then, yep.
Because if you put this thing on a pedestal, then it'll always be out of reach. But if you're focused on the minute details, the steps that it takes to get there, you'll inevitably get there.
Cool. Any other ones that you want to talk about?
I think that pretty much hit all my points.
I think so too. We talk about flow state a lot.
Oh yeah, that's something that you achieve once you have the mastery. I was thinking that whenever you were talking about siddhas.
Well, you don't have to be a master to hit a flow state. You just have to be fully involved. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so a flow state is an optimal state of consciousness where one experiences effortless involvement in an activity with heightened intuition. And yeah, it's funny, I was going back and forth with someone the other day about like meditation and focus. And it was like, oh, how do you do that without focusing? No, the point is to focus. And I was like, well, you want to get to a point where you don't have to focus, or it feels like you're not focusing. Like in jiu-jitsu, I don't really think, I just do. And that's like the best feeling. It's like when I'm not thinking. Now, there are moments where I do have to think, but again, you kind of want like a balance of where your intuition and your thought process is kind of like merging into one. And yeah, like for example, drumming, right? Like when you first learn a skill, you have to really focus and pay attention and try. But eventually you get good enough to where you don't focus. You just do. You just go. And it becomes more of a feeling process than a thinking process. And the flow state can be healing because most of the time we're constantly inundated with thoughts and voices in our head. But when you're in the flow state, all that's off. And again, having that separation from the voices, from the everyday nonsense of life, of what you got going on, bills, work, drama, relationships, family, friends, like all the stressors that can be on you. Well, when you're in the flow state, you're not thinking about any of that. You're not thinking at all. You're just in the moment. You're fully present. You're present and non-present at the same time. Like it's crazy. You just are. You're being. And yeah, it's a healing experience. And yeah, it's like, doing it in jiu-jitsu is like one of the funnest things to possibly do. And I'm just saying jiu-jitsu because that's what I do, but it's the same thing for musicians, for chess players, for playing video games, like where you are the game, where you're like so dialed in, it feels like you are the person, like you're not even operating a control anymore, you just are that person. That's like what makes us addicted to whatever it is that we're doing to begin with, you know? So if you've experienced flow state, let us know about like what it is that you're doing or how you like to get into your flow state. Like what brings you there? Is it meditation? Is it drumming? Is it playing the guitar? Is it playing video games? Is it playing with your kids? Like it could literally be anything. Anything that you care about, that you feel slightly challenged when you're doing. Like it's funny, it can't be so easy that you get bored with it, and it can't be too hard that it's frustrating. It's like the way you get into the flow state is like right at or above your skill level, where you're challenged but you're still navigating it. That's how you like drop into it. And you know, that's like with anything, it's like the most fun roles are the ones where it's a close one, but like I'm getting moves, they're getting moves, and it's like a back and forth. Those are the most fun. Anything else?
I don't think so.
Alrighty. Well, that's all we got for you guys. Man, if there's any terms that you guys want us to go over that we didn't cover already, let us know. We'll cover them in the next podcast. But we appreciate you guys tuning in. If you have any comments or ideas, let us know in the comments. Send us a DM. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. Thank you all.